Welcome back to Z Coins lovers and treasure hunters. If you've ever dug into your pocket and pulled out a penny, then you may want to double check what year it was minted, because today we are diving into the top 8 most valuable Abraham Lincoln penny coins that could make you a millionaire. Yes, you heard that right. Some of these seemingly ordinary copper coins have been sold for hundreds of thousands and even over $1 million. Stick around till the end, because number 1 might just blow your mind. Let's begin. Have you ever wondered if that old penny sitting in your drawer could be worth a small fortune? Well, today we're diving deep into the story of the 1977 Lincoln 1-cent coin, a small piece of copper that just might surprise you with its value and history. The Lincoln penny has a special place in American history. First introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person and not just a symbolic figure. The design by Victor David Brenner showcased Lincoln's bust on the front with the words "In God We Trust" above Liberty on the left and the minting year on the right. Now fast forward to 1977. This was a time when the United States was facing economic changes, inflation concerns, and debates over the rising costs of copper. Despite all that, the U.S. Mint continued producing the penny using 95% copper and 5% zinc. That makes the 1977 penny one of the last to be made almost entirely of copper, before the composition changed in 1982. So why should you care about a 1977 penny? After all, it's just a regular old coin, right? Well, not exactly. While most of these pennies are common, there are certain things collectors and coin enthusiasts look for that can raise the value significantly. Let's break it down. First off, let's talk about mintage. In 1977, over 4.4 billion pennies were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, with no mint mark, over 524 million at the Denver Mint, with a D mark, and around 864 million at the San Francisco Mint, most of which were proof coins. Now, while that sounds like a lot of coins, not all of them are created equal. What makes a 1977 penny valuable is its condition. Any penny in uncirculated or mint state condition can be worth far more than face value. For example, a 1977 penny graded MS65 read by professional grading services can fetch anywhere from $5 to $15 depending on the market. Even more exciting, if the coin is graded higher, like MS66 or MS67, you could be looking at values in the $50 to $100 range or more. And here's where it gets interesting: error coins. These are the hidden treasures of the coin world, and the 1977 penny has a few of them too. Some known errors include double die obverse, which means the lettering and design elements appear slightly doubled. Another error includes off-center strikes or coins that were misaligned during minting. These error coins, depending on how dramatic and rare they are, can go for anywhere between $20 to over $100, sometimes even higher. There's also the color factor. Collectors look for red, brown, and red grades. A red coin means it still has its original copper luster, and that usually means higher value. Red-brown is a mix of shine and natural toning, and brown coins tend to be more circulated and less valuable. But even a nicely preserved brown coin can be worth something if it has the right error or condition. So what should you do if you have a 1977 penny lying around? First, take a look at its color and condition. Is it shiny with a reddish glow, or has it darkened with age? Next, check for any mint marks like a small D or S beneath the date. No mint mark means it was made in Philadelphia. Check for any unusual features, doubling of letters, weird spacing, or even if it looks off-center. If you see anything odd, it's worth a closer inspection. Now, let's talk market value. As of 2025, the value of a regular circulated 1977 penny is about 1 cent, maybe 2 if it's in slightly better shape, but uncirculated examples, especially those graded MS65 and above, are seeing strong interest from collectors. You can find recent sales on auction sites like eBay where high-grade 1977 pennies have sold for between $10 and $75 depending on their grade. And I appeal error coins, of course, fetch even more. A dramatic double die or a major misstrike can reach into the hundreds. So while the 1977 penny might seem common, it's proof that even the smallest things can hold stories and surprising value. If you've got a handful of pennies, it might be time to go treasure hunting. Who knows, that old jar of change could be holding more value than you ever imagined. We're diving into a hidden gem that might be sitting in your pocket right now. That's right, we're talking about the 1978 1-cent Abraham Lincoln penny. It's a small coin, just a single cent, but its history, design, and potential value in today's market might surprise you. So grab your change jar and get ready to learn everything you need to know about the 1978 Lincoln penny, why it's more than just a cent, and how you might be holding on to something worth way more than its face value. Let's start with a bit of history. The Lincoln cent has been in circulation since 1909. It was introduced to celebrate the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. That made it the first U.S. coin to feature a real person's face. Prior to this, American coins mostly had symbolic designs like liberty or eagles. Victor David Brenner was the designer of the original coin, and his initials, VDB, are something collectors always keep an eye out for. Now fast forward to 1978. The Lincoln penny that year was part of what numismatists call the Memorial Reverse Series. That means on the back of the coin, you'll see the Lincoln Memorial Building, which was used from 1959 all the way to 2008 before the reverse changed again. So every penny from 1978 features Lincoln's bust on the front and the memorial on the back. But not all 1978 pennies are created equal. Let's talk composition. In 1978, the U.S. Mint was still producing pennies primarily from 95% copper and 5% zinc. These copper coins weigh about 3.11 grams, which is heavier than the newer pennies minted from 1982 onward. Those later coins switched to a mostly zinc core with a thin copper coating. Why does this matter? Because the copper content alone in a 1978 penny is actually worth more than 1 cent today, depending on metal prices. But it gets even better. Beyond the metal value, certain 1978 Lincoln cents are actually worth money to collectors. The value comes down to condition, mint mark, and rare errors. There were 3 main versions of the 1978 penny. The ones minted in Philadelphia with no mint mark, the ones from Denver with a small d under the date, and the ones from San Francisco with an S, which were mostly proof coins meant for collectors. The regular circulating 1978 pennies from Philadelphia and Denver are generally only worth face value unless they are in pristine condition. But here's where it gets interesting. If you have a 1978 penny in mint state condition, especially graded MS65 or higher, it can fetch significantly more. Some of these coins have sold for $5, $10, and in rare cases, even up to $50 or more depending on the grade. Let's now talk about errors. This is where things can get really exciting. Some 1978 Lincoln pennies have fascinating minting errors that make them valuable to collectors. For example, there are double die errors where the lettering or the date appears slightly doubled. These can happen when the die used to strike the coin shifts slightly between strikes. Other error coins include off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and even coins struck on the wrong metal blanks. These error coins can be worth anywhere from $20 to hundreds of dollars depending on the type and severity of the error. Another important factor is the proof coin from San Francisco. If you have a 1978 S-proof penny and it's still in great condition, especially if it's graded PR69 or PR70 deep cameo, it can be quite valuable. These proof coins were struck using specially polished dies and blanks to give them a mirror-like finish and sharp details. They were not meant for circulation and were sold in special sets to collectors. A perfect or near-perfect 1978 S-proof penny can be worth anywhere from $5 to $50 or more. Let's break it down a little more for the current market. As of now, in 2025, the average copper melt value of a 1978 Lincoln penny is around 2 to 3 cents depending on the current copper price. Not bad for a 1-cent coin. Meanwhile, uncirculated or high-grade 1978 pennies can range from a few dollars to even hundreds if it's a rare error or high-grade proof. On auction sites and collector platforms, you can see coins graded MS67 selling for over $100. Error coins like a double die or a dramatic off-center strike can push even higher. So, what should you look for if you want to check your own change? First, check the date. Look for 1978. Then check underneath the date for the mint mark. If there's no mark, it's from Philadelphia. A D means Denver. An S means San Francisco. Then check the condition. If it looks shiny, clean, and uncirculated, it might be worth grading. Use a magnifying glass to look for errors like doubling in the date, Liberty, or In God We Trust. Also, weigh the coin if you can. It should be about 3.11 grams. Anything different could mean something unusual. Now, is it worth getting your 1978 penny professionally graded? That depends. If you have a coin that looks flawless or has a rare error, absolutely. Grading adds credibility and can boost its resale value. But if it's a common circulated coin with scratches and wear, it's probably better to just hang on to it or sell it for its copper value. So to sum it all up, the 1978 Abraham Lincoln 1-cent penny might look like pocket change, but it has history, metal value, collector demand, and some versions are surprisingly valuable. Whether it's because of a rare minting error, a high mint state grade, or just being a well-preserved proof coin, your little penny could be worth much more than 1 cent. We dive deep into the fascinating world of coins, currency, and collectibles. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon So you never miss a video. Today we're talking about a coin you've probably seen hundreds of times before, but what if I told you that your ordinary pocket change might contain a hidden treasure? That's right, we're talking about the 1980 Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that might seem common but holds some surprising secrets, value, and demand. So sit back, relax, and let's explore the incredible story behind the 1980 Lincoln penny and why some of these coins are worth way more than just 1 cent. Let's start with a bit of background. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It replaced the Indian head penny and was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person on the obverse, which is the front side of the coin. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse of the Lincoln penny features the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln facing right with the words "In God We Trust" at the top, Liberty on the left, and the date on the right. The reverse design in 1980 was still the Lincoln Memorial, which was first introduced in 1959 to celebrate Lincoln's 150th birthday. That design was created by Frank Gasparo and shows the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. with the words "United States of America" and "E Pluribus Unum" above it, and the denomination 1 cent below. Now let's get into the specifics of the 1980 penny. The D mint mark means it was minted in Denver in 1980. The Denver Mint produced a staggering number of these pennies, over 5 billion to be exact, which means the coin is generally considered common in circulated condition. But here's where things get interesting. Even though it's common in sheer numbers, certain versions of the 1980 penny are far from ordinary. There are rare varieties and errors that can make these coins worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Let's break them down. First up, we've got mint errors. These are mistakes that happen during the minting process, and they can turn an otherwise ordinary penny into a collector's dream. Look out for off-center strikes, double dies, clipped planchets, or even die cracks on a 1980 penny. These types of errors are highly collectible, and depending on the type and severity can be worth anywhere from $20 to over $1,000. Next is the condition or grade. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect uncirculated coin. A 1980 penny in circulated condition might be worth only its face value or a few cents to collectors, but in mint state, especially in grades MS65, MS66 or higher, the value increases sharply. For example, an MS67 1980 Lincoln penny can sell for $50 to $150 or more depending on the market. And then we have special varieties. Some 1980 pennies have unusual features that make them especially valuable. For instance, collectors are on the lookout for coins with strong doubling in the date or lettering on the obverse or reverse. These are called double die varieties and can bring in big bucks. Also, some planchet errors where the penny is struck on the wrong metal can be extremely rare and desirable. Now let's talk current market trends. As of this year, collectors are paying top dollar for high-grade 1980 pennies, especially those with eye-catching luster, full original red color, and strong strike prices at auction have shown consistent growth, especially for MS67 and above. The coin market has been heating up overall, and Lincoln cents have always had a dedicated base of collectors, which helps support values. Even if you find a regular 1980 penny with no error and just decent condition, it's still worth holding on to if it's bright and uncirculated, because those coins are no longer made with the same copper content. That's right, pennies minted before 1982 contain 95% copper, which means each one is worth more than a cent just in metal content alone due to the rising price of copper. That brings us to an important point. The 1980 penny is made of mostly copper, not zinc like most modern pennies. Since copper prices have increased over the years, the intrinsic metal value of these coins has gone up. So even for the most basic examples, you're looking at a value above 1 cent, and for serious collectors, that copper composition adds even more historical appeal. To wrap things up, here's what you need to remember about the 1980 Lincoln penny. While it may seem like a common coin, its value depends heavily on condition, mint errors, and special varieties. A flawless coin with a rare error or unique feature can be worth far more than you'd expect. Always check your pocket change, and especially those old jars of coins. You never know what hidden gems you might have. We're diving deep into a fascinating topic that has left both beginner and expert collectors stunned: the 1982 Abraham Lincoln 1-cent penny coin. You might think it's just another penny, but this little copper-colored coin holds a unique place in numismatic history. In fact, depending on the variety and condition, some of these coins are worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars today. So stick around, because we're breaking down the history, the value, and what makes some 1982 Lincoln cents incredibly rare and valuable in today's market. Let's start with a little history. The Lincoln cent has been in circulation since 1909, designed to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Over the decades, the design has undergone changes, but Lincoln's bust has always remained at the center. Now fast forward to 1982, a year that marked a huge transition in the production of the penny. Why? Because this was the year the U.S. Mint changed the composition of the 1-cent coin. Before 1982, pennies were made of 95% copper and 5% zinc. But due to the rising cost of copper, it actually started costing more than 1 cent just to make a penny. So the U.S. Mint decided to make a change. Starting in the middle of 1982, the mint switched from copper to a new composition, a core of 99.2% zinc coated with a thin layer of copper. That means if you picked up a penny from early 1982, it would be made of mostly copper. But a penny from later that same year would be made of mostly zinc. Here's where things get interesting. Both versions were produced in 1982, and because of that, there are actually 7 different known varieties of the 1982 Lincoln penny. Let's break them down. First, there are large date and small date versions, and they come in both copper and zinc. That gives us 6 different combinations. The 7th variety is a rare one, a 1982 D small date copper penny, which wasn't supposed to exist. But we'll get to that special one in just a moment. So how do you tell the difference between these coins? It's a mix of visual cues and weight. A copper penny from 1982 weighs about 3.11 grams, while a zinc penny only weighs about 2.5 grams. You can use a jeweler's scale or a precision digital scale to check. Visually, the large date and small date versions differ slightly in the shape of the numbers. The number 2 in the date is the easiest to spot. In the small date variety, the 2 is more curved and the number 8 sits higher. In the large date, the 2 has a sharper bend and the numbers are more aligned. Now let's talk about what makes these coins valuable. The copper pennies are already becoming collectible because copper is no longer used in modern pennies. But the real treasure lies in the rare varieties. In 2016, a 1982 D small date copper penny was discovered and authenticated. This variety was not supposed to exist. All small date coins from Denver that year were supposed to be zinc. But this one was made of copper. Only a handful of these have been found, and when they show up at auction, they can sell for thousands of dollars. One example graded MS-63 sold for over $18,000. Even among the more common varieties, there is still value to be found. Uncirculated copper or zinc 1982 pennies can fetch a few dollars or more, especially if they are graded highly by a professional grading service. Coins in mint state condition, that's MS-65 or higher, are worth significantly more than average pocket change. If you have a sealed roll of 1982 pennies, you might even be sitting on a small gold mine without knowing it. So what's the current market value? As of today, in 2025, circulated 1982 pennies are generally worth 1 cent. That is, unless they're copper, in which case the melt value is around 2 to 3 cents depending on copper prices. Uncirculated coins can range from $1 to $5 depending on variety and grade. But rare varieties like the 1982 D small date copper penny can be worth thousands, and collectors are actively searching for them. On eBay, rolls of 1982 Lincoln cents are being sold with labels like unsearched or possibly containing rare varieties, and they're going for tens to hundreds of dollars. So what should you do if you have a 1982 penny? First, don't spend it. Look closely at the date style. Is it large or small? Then check the mint mark. D means it was minted in Denver, while no mint mark means Philadelphia. And finally, weigh the coin. If it's a small date with a D mint mark and weighs over 3 grams, congratulations, you might have a truly rare find. In that case, definitely get it authenticated and graded by a professional coin service like PCGS or NGC.to. Wrap this up. The 1982 Abraham Lincoln penny is more than just pocket change. It's a historical marker of economic change in the U.S., a puzzle with 7 different varieties, and a treasure hunt waiting to happen. So next time you get some change back, take a second look. You never know. One little penny could be worth a whole lot more than 1 cent. We're diving into the fascinating world of numismatics, with a focus on the 1983 Abraham Lincoln 1-cent penny coin. If you're a collector, or just curious about how much your pocket change might be worth, you're in the right place. In this video, we'll explore the rich history of the 1983 penny, its current market value, and what makes it stand out in the world of coin collecting. The history of the 1983 penny first. Let's take a step back and look at the history behind the 1983 penny. The penny, which features the likeness of Abraham Lincoln, has been a staple of American currency since it was first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The reverse side of the coin has gone through a few design changes over the years, but Lincoln's portrait, designed by Victor D. Brenner, has remained a constant feature by the time the 1983 penny was struck. The United States Mint had already made the shift from using 95% copper in pennies to using a more affordable copper-plated zinc composition. This change occurred in 1982, and the 1983 penny was one of the first to be produced with this new material. Now, you might be wondering, why did the U.S. Mint decide to change the composition of the penny? Well, it was largely due to the rising cost of copper. As the price of copper increased in the 1970s, it became more expensive to produce pennies, which led to the decision to switch to the copper-plated zinc formula. This change helped the U.S. Mint reduce the cost of manufacturing pennies significantly. The value of the 1983 penny now, let's talk about the value of the 1983 penny. If you're looking for a 1983 penny in your pocket change, you'll likely find that it's worth exactly 1 cent. But what if you're a coin collector, or you've come across a 1983 penny that seems a little different from the others? While most 1983 pennies are worth just their face value of 1 cent, there are a few exceptions that can fetch a lot more money. The main thing to look for is whether your 1983 penny has any rare features, such as a minting error, that could make it more valuable. One of the most famous errors associated with the 1983 penny is the 1983 double die obverse. This error occurred when the die used to strike the coin didn't align properly, creating a double image of the inscription Liberty and the date 1983. This type of error is extremely rare and highly sought after by collectors. If you happen to find one of these rare 1983 double die pennies, it could be worth a significant amount of money, sometimes hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on the quality of the coin and its condition. But let's be clear, finding a 1983 double die penny is not easy. Most 1983 pennies were struck normally and have no special features to make them stand out. However, if you are a dedicated collector, it's always worth checking your change and inspecting your coins for any potential errors that could make them more valuable. The current market value of the 1983 penny as of today, the 1983 penny in average circulated condition is worth just 1 cent. However, as we mentioned earlier, if you find a rare 1983 penny with a minting error, its value could be much higher. The value of a regular 1983 penny has not changed much over the years, but market demand for coins in excellent condition, especially for those that have never been circulated, can drive up their price. Uncirculated 1983 pennies can sometimes be sold for a few cents more than face value, especially if they come from a set of coins that have been well preserved and are in pristine condition. For the most part, though, you're not going to retire on the value of a 1983 penny unless you find a rare one with an error. So, if you're a collector, it's important to check for those special minting errors that can significantly increase the value of your coins. What makes the 1983 penny so special? What makes the 1983 penny special in the eyes of collectors? It all comes down to its historical significance and the changes in the U.S. Mint's coinage. The 1983 penny is one of the first to feature the new copper-plated zinc composition, which marked a shift in how pennies were produced. Additionally, the 1983 penny represents a time when the United States was facing rising costs of copper and other metals, which led to the transition to a less expensive material. The fact that the 1983 penny was struck during this time of change makes it an interesting piece for collectors who appreciate the history behind the coin. Furthermore, the possibility of finding a rare error, like the double die obverse, only adds to the excitement and appeal of this particular penny. For many collectors, the 1983 penny serves as a reminder of the U.S. Mint's efforts to adapt to changing economic conditions and the ongoing evolution of American currency. It may be a small, humble coin, but its place in the history of U.S. coinage is far from insignificant. In conclusion, the 1983 Abraham Lincoln 1-cent penny is a fascinating coin with a rich history and a place in the changing landscape of American currency. While most 1983 pennies are worth just 1 cent, it's important to keep an eye out for rare minting errors, such as the 1983 double die obverse, which can make the coin highly valuable to collectors. If you're looking to learn more about coins or discover whether your 1983 penny is worth more than face value, it's always a good idea to consult with a professional numismatist or check reputable coin price guides. If you're a coin collector, history enthusiast, or just someone interested in learning more about rare and valuable coins, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to dive into one of the most iconic coins in U.S. history, the 2000 Abraham Lincoln 1-cent penny. This coin, which features the famous face of Abraham Lincoln, has an interesting backstory and a value that fluctuates over time. But what exactly is the worth of a 2000 Lincoln penny today? Let's explore its history, its unique features, and how much it's worth right now. You may be surprised by what you discover. The 2000 Lincoln penny is part of the long history of the U.S. 1-cent coin, which has been in circulation since the late 1700s. Over the years, the design of the penny has changed multiple times, but the Lincoln cent, which first debuted in 1909, has remained one of the most recognized coins in America. The 2000 penny is not just any penny, though. It's tied to an interesting year in U.S. coinage and has a number of features that make it stand out from other pennies. First, let's take a look at the design of this particular coin on the obverse. You'll find the classic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. Lincoln has been the face of the penny for over a century, and this design remains a symbol of American history. But in 2000, a unique feature was added to the reverse side of the penny. The reverse of the penny that year saw the launch of the Union Shield design, which replaced the previous wheat ears that had been featured on the coin for decades. The Union Shield design symbolizes the strength of the United States, with 13 stripes representing the original 13 colonies and a shield to protect the Union. It's a fitting design for a coin that represents the unity and strength of the nation. Now that we know a little about the design, let's talk about the history of the 2000 Lincoln penny. In the year 2000, the U.S. Mint introduced a number of changes to its coinage, including the redesign of the penny. The most significant change was the shift from the wheat reverse to the Union Shield design. But the changes didn't end there. In fact, the year 2000 marked the introduction of the Lincoln Memorial Series, which featured a larger and more prominent image of Abraham Lincoln. The idea was to honor the nation's 16th president and the legacy he left behind. As we move into the topic of value, the 2000 Lincoln penny might seem like an ordinary coin to many people. After all, it's still in circulation, and you can find them in your pocket change. However, if you take a closer look, you might be holding on to something worth more than just 1 cent. The value of a 2000 penny depends on a number of factors, including its condition, rarity, and whether there are any errors on the coin. Let's start with the most common version of the 2000 Lincoln penny. In average circulation condition, a 2000 penny is worth exactly 1 cent. That's right, if you have a regular, unremarkable 2000 penny in your pocket, you won't be getting rich anytime soon. But don't throw that penny away just yet. There are certain versions of the 2000 penny that could be worth more than face value, especially if you know where to look. The key to determining the value of a 2000 Lincoln penny lies in its condition. Coins that are in mint condition, meaning they have very little wear or damage, can fetch higher prices than those in poor condition. When it comes to the 2000 penny, uncirculated versions are the most valuable. These coins are often found in rolls of newly minted pennies or as part of collector sets. A 2000 penny in mint condition might be worth a few cents more than its face value. However, it's still not going to make you rich unless you've stumbled upon something truly rare. What about error coins? Well, the 2000 penny is actually known for having a few notable errors that could increase its value significantly. One of the most famous errors associated with the 2000 penny is the close AM variety. If you take a close look at the reverse of the penny, you'll notice that the letters A and M in the word America are supposed to be far apart in the wide AM design. However, on some 2000 pennies, these letters are very close together. This is a mistake made during the minting process, and it has made these coins highly sought after by collectors. If you have a 2000 penny with this error, you could potentially sell it for hundreds of dollars, depending on its condition. There's also another error variety called the wide AM, which is more common and less valuable. So, how do you determine if your 2000 penny is worth something more than just 1 cent? The best way is to closely inspect the reverse side of the coin. If the letters A and M are separated, you've got the common wide AM variety. If they're very close together, you may have the rare and valuable close AM error. Coins with errors in minting are highly prized by collectors, so even a small mistake can turn an otherwise ordinary penny into a valuable asset. But what's the market value of a 2000 Lincoln penny today? As of now, the market for these coins can fluctuate depending on the condition, error types, and demand among collectors. A regular 2000 Lincoln penny in uncirculated condition may sell for around 10 to 20 cents. If you've got one of the rare close AM error coins, however, you could see values ranging from $50 to $200 or more, depending on the coin's grade and condition. Coins that are in mint condition and come with certifications of authenticity can command even higher prices. It's worth noting that the value of these pennies can change over time, as the coin market is influenced by trends, demand, and the discovery of new error coins. If you're a serious collector, you'll want to keep an eye on auction sites, coin dealers, and online marketplaces to see how the prices of these rare pennies evolve. It's also a good idea to get your valuable coins graded by a professional service like the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC, or the Professional Coin Grading Service to determine their true value and ensure that they're properly protected. In conclusion, while the 2000 Abraham Lincoln 1-cent penny may not seem like a valuable coin at first glance, it can actually be worth much more depending on its condition and any errors it may have. The close AM variety, in particular, has caught the attention of collectors, and it can fetch a significant amount of money if you're lucky enough to have one. Whether you're a casual coin collector or a serious numismatist, it's always worth checking your pocket change to see if you've got a hidden gem on your hands. Dive into one of the most iconic coins in American history, the Abraham Lincoln 2001 1-cent penny. Today, we'll explore its history, value, and the current market worth so you can understand why this penny is so much more than just a piece of change. Let's get started. The 2001 Abraham Lincoln 1-cent penny was produced as part of a series of annual releases celebrating the life and legacy of the 16th President of the United States. It marked the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and the U.S. Mint created this special penny to honor Lincoln's impact on the country. But what makes this coin truly remarkable, and why are people still so interested in it today? Let's start with the history behind the coin. In 1909, the U.S. Mint introduced the Lincoln cent, making it the first U.S. coin to feature a real person's portrait. Since then, it has been a symbol of American history and culture. But in 2001, a special change was made to the design to commemorate the bicentennial of Lincoln's birth. The year 2001 saw the release of the first new design for the reverse side of the Lincoln penny in over 50 years. This was a monumental moment in the history of U.S. coinage, and the U.S. Mint made sure to mark it with something truly special. The obverse of the coin features the classic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, which was designed by Victor D. Brenner. It's a well-known image of the president, and it's been on the penny since 1909. The reverse side of the coin in 2001, however, introduced a new design. The new design was a modern reinterpretation of Lincoln's log cabin, which symbolizes his humble beginnings. This was a nod to Lincoln's early life in Kentucky and Indiana, long before he became one of the most famous figures in American history. Now, let's talk about the value of the 2001 Lincoln penny. As with most coins, the value is largely determined by its rarity, condition, and the demand from collectors. Generally, the 2001 penny in circulation today isn't worth more than its face value, which is 1 cent. However, if you have one of the special edition coins, like a proof coin or a coin in mint condition, it can be worth more to collectors. A coin that is in mint state or MS65 condition or higher can be worth a bit more. In fact, certain pennies from the 2001 release, especially those with specific errors, can fetch a premium in the market. Some of these rare versions of the 2001 penny have been known to sell for anywhere between $5 and $20, depending on the condition and the rarity of the error. There's also something called the 2001 Lincoln cent with close AM error, which is a major factor in determining the value of some 2001 pennies. This error happened when the letters A and M in America, on the reverse side of the penny, were too close together. This small error is highly sought after by collectors, and if you happen to find one of these error coins, it could potentially be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on the quality and grade of the coin. The 2001 penny in its regular form is still part of a large and ongoing tradition of coin collecting in the United States. However, for most of us, unless we happen to stumble upon a rare variant, the 2001 penny will hold its value at just 1 cent. But that doesn't mean it's any less valuable to those who appreciate the history it represents. It is, after all, a coin that commemorates one of the most important figures in U.S. history, Abraham Lincoln. As for the current market value, pennies in average circulation today are still worth 1 cent. But if you're lucky enough to find a well-preserved example, or even better, one with an error or special marking, you might be sitting on a small treasure. Always check for any mint marks or irregularities in your coins, as they could increase their value substantially. The Lincoln cent continues to be a reminder of Lincoln's contributions to the United States, and the 2001 version stands out as a commemorative tribute to his 200th birthday. If you're a collector or even just someone interested in the history of U.S. coinage, the 2001 penny is a valuable piece of history. In conclusion, while most 2001 Lincoln pennies are still worth just 1 cent, there are certain versions of the coin that can fetch a higher price on the market, especially those with errors or in perfect condition. Keep an eye on your spare change, because you never know when you might come across a rare or valuable version of this iconic coin. We're diving into the fascinating world of coin collecting, and we'll be talking specifically about the 2003 1 cent penny featuring Abraham Lincoln. This small coin has a rich history and a story that may surprise you in terms of its value, rarity, and market worth today. If you're a coin collector or just someone who's interested in learning more about the fascinating world of pennies, stick around as we explore everything there is to know about this iconic coin. Let's start by talking about the background and significance of the 2003 Abraham Lincoln 1 cent penny. First things first, the penny is one of the most well-known and widely circulated coins in the United States, and it has a history that dates back to 1793. Since its introduction, the penny has gone through several design changes, and it's safe to say that one of the most famous and enduring designs is that of Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln has been featured on the front of the penny since 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of his birth. The coin was designed by Victor David Brenner, whose initials can be seen beneath Lincoln's portrait. But what makes the 2003 1 cent penny so special? Well, the D in the 2003 penny stands for the Denver Mint, one of the 2 U.S. mints responsible for producing coins. Every penny produced at the Denver Mint has this D mint mark to distinguish it from those minted in Philadelphia, which typically don't have a mint mark. Now, 2003 was a pivotal year for the penny because it marked a shift in the design of the reverse side of the coin, which has changed many times throughout history. In 2003, the reverse side of the penny featured a depiction of the Lincoln Memorial, a design that had been in use since 1959. However, in 2003, something special happened. The U.S. Mint issued 4 different reverse designs to commemorate the 150th anniversary of the birth of Abraham Lincoln. The reverse designs showcased different stages of Lincoln's life and legacy, from his humble beginnings to his time as president during the Civil War. The design you're most likely to encounter on a 2003 penny is the standard Lincoln Memorial reverse, but if you're lucky enough to come across one of the special anniversary designs, you could have something truly valuable. So what about the value of the 2003 penny? You might think that since the penny is one of the most common coins in circulation, it wouldn't be worth much. And for the most part, you'd be correct. The face value of the 2003 penny is just 1 cent. However, as with all coins, there are certain factors that can impact the value. The condition of the coin is key, as well as whether it is a rare variety or if there are any special characteristics, such as errors or unusual features. For the most part, a 2003 penny in circulated condition is worth only its face value, which is 1 cent. However, if the coin is in uncirculated condition, it may be worth slightly more to collectors. For example, an uncirculated 2003 penny might fetch anywhere from 10 to 25 cents, depending on its condition and the specific market at the time. But don't get too excited just yet, because even if the coin is in mint condition, it still isn't going to make you rich. The true value comes into play if the coin has a rare feature or if it's part of a specific set that collectors are looking for. For example, certain error coins, like those with double strikes, misprints, or missing details, can be worth significantly more than their counterparts. If you happen to find a 2003 penny with a noticeable error, you might want to take it to a professional coin grader to get it evaluated. Depending on the rarity of the error and the condition of the coin, it could be worth anywhere from a few dollars to potentially hundreds or even thousands of dollars. One of the most well-known examples of an error coin is the 2003 double die penny, which features a clear doubling of certain details on the obverse of the coin. If you find one of these, hold on to it. It could be worth a lot more than you think. But even without errors, there is still some value in the 2003 penny if it is in pristine, uncirculated condition. Coins that are graded as MS 65 or higher, mint state 65, can sometimes fetch upwards of $1 or more on the open market, particularly if demand for that specific year and mint mark is high. While it may not be worth a fortune, it could be a nice addition to your coin collection, especially if you're a fan of Abraham Lincoln and his legacy to us. What's the current market value of the 2003 penny? As of today, most 2003 pennies in circulation are still worth only their face value. However, if you happen to come across one in exceptional condition or with a rare error, you could find that its value is significantly higher. Coins with the potential for a higher value typically get auctioned at coin shows or through online marketplaces like eBay, where collectors are willing to pay a premium for unique or rare coins. If you're looking to buy or sell a 2003 penny, it's a good idea to check current coin prices on trusted coin dealer websites or auction sites to get an idea of what similar coins are going for. Remember that the value of a coin can fluctuate depending on demand, rarity, and condition, so it's always a good idea to stay updated on the latest trends in the market. Now, let's take a step back and consider why coins like the 2003 penny hold such appeal to collectors. For many, coin collecting is about more than just the monetary value. It's about history, artistry, and the thrill of discovery. The Abraham Lincoln penny, in particular, carries a deep connection to American history and serves as a tribute to one of the nation's most revered presidents. Collectors appreciate the symbolism of Lincoln on the penny and the fact that each coin tells a small story about the nation's past. Whether you're a seasoned coin collector or someone who's just starting out, the 2003 Abraham Lincoln penny is a great piece to have in your collection. While it may not make you a millionaire, it's certainly a piece of American history that has a special place in the hearts of many. If you're lucky enough to find one with a rare error or in uncirculated condition, it could be worth much more than you might expect. So keep your eyes peeled. That's all for today's video. I hope you found this deep dive into the 2003 Abraham Lincoln penny interesting and informative. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you never miss an update. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. What coins do you have in your collection? Have you found any rare pennies? Let us know, and we'll see you in the next video.